Larry!
Larry, you can't just... Oh,
Larry! Oh, are you all right? How did you...
Larry!
Hello and welcome back. Today we'll be sculpting hands. So let's not wait for anything and let's go. First I'm gonna press Shift A. Just let me have my keys visible. Shift A. Image, reference, find it on your computer and upload it. Now it's in a weird rotation and position, so I'm gonna hold R, Alt and press R and J. Now press R to rotate X on the X axis and 90 by 90 degrees. Now move my image into the desired place and we can start working on our sculpt. So we'll be using cube this time. I'm gonna press tab to go into edit mode, S to scale, Z on Z axis, and now S and X a bit on X axis, and scale whole model to make it a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to select these two edges and move it a bit backwards and go back into object mode and go into sculpting view. Let me turn on my screencast keys in this mirror window and turn on your statistics so you can see how many vertices you're getting. I want to have at least 10,000 at the beginning, maybe a bit more. And we will be using a lot of clay strips. But before we do, your settings will be by default something like this. What I want you to turn on is auto smooth. You can use it, you don't really need to, but you should if you want to have the same results on sculpting like my tools. As well, I'm using a tablet, so I have my strength on to the maximum. If you're using a mouse, have it lower. And I will decrease the normal radius. And don't forget to turn on front face only on your brush. Now remember that the statistics is only gonna be on the clay strip brush. And I will start forming my thumb firstly. I don't really care too much how it's gonna look at the beginning. Now I'm gonna draw with clay strips on these hard edges to make them smoother. And use a little bit of shift moving of whole thing. Now I'm going to voxel mesh it again just to get those hard edges out. Okay, now I'm going to the top view and let's form our hand a little bit. But before we do, let's have a short lesson. So as you can see, the hand has an arc. Let me just use annotations. If you cannot understand what I'm talking about, is this. I probably have annotation off. Yes. This arc of the hand so which we need to replicate. As usually you can see this part is higher than the small finger part, so I keep that as well in mind. And I will drag the small pinky part down and this one just a little bit down and have this curvature, as well as looking from the top, from the front view. I won't really have an image showing here, but the hand is not flat surface. This front we'll have not just this top view curvature, but as well as the front curvature, which almost the same as the top view. So what I'm going to do is go to the pinky smallest finger side and drag whole hand down. And have this arc a little bit on another side, not too much, and just form the arc with the whole hand to make it smoother as a cut, not too extreme. Smooth a little bit. Let's go back into forming our thumb. Don't forget to remesh a lot if you're going very strongly with your brush. And at this point, I'll remesh it again, smooth a little bit, and use my mask. I like lasso masks, so the shortcut is Ctrl and Shift, holding them, and then using your mouse to drag, or your tablet. A to get this menu, invert the mask. We can use grab tool, we can use moving tools, both of them work. And get my thumb in a pretty relaxed position. So as you can see, the thumb is not actually a flat surface to the other fingers, which is most common mistake. As you can see, this part of the hand, let me get darker colors. As you can see, this part of the hand is higher than your thumb, very visible on this one. Your fingers is on this plane and your thumb is here. That's why I position it down, and I don't position it up here with my hand. Okay. I'm going to clear the mask, voxel remesh, maybe use a little bit of inflate tool brush, which is with I, the shortcut is I. Smooth. Go into the view. And I will drag the whole thumb bigger part down. I'm going to start shape the finger front, but leave it pretty loose for now. Just smoothing. Now, your hand side is definitely not as flat as I have in here. Let me get a nice color. As you can see, I have a very flat surface of the hand side. And if we look at our reference, it actually extends. And it becomes wider at the bottom and smaller at where your finger is. So I will add as well in here. If you're thinking what shapes should I do, it's pretty visible in this one. I wouldn't probably have this heavily of separation, but this part, your thumb part, and then this 1/3 part. Now you may not know how big the thumb part and how big the side should be. You can always look at the reference, but I feel like they're pretty equal. The only thing is that the thumb extends to the side, which makes it a bit bigger. But when I'm just grasping from this sides, I feel it's almost in the middle. Okay, just adding a bit of mesh on there. Let me turn off these ones because it's hard to see. Now, I like to stay at the sculpting mode most of the time. So I'm going to mask this part and extend it. Other way would be going to object mode and adding a cylinder. Again, you can use grab tool, you can use move tool. I'm going to use move tool this time. Just move it a bit down. Clear the mask and remesh. After remesh, I will just form a little bit of the wrist. I don't really care about the end, only my hand area. We have a hand sculpted already. All right. Now, another thing which I'm looking is at this end, and it's not really that complicated. As you can see in this arrow, it has a small arrow shape. That's basically what I'm trying to do too. Have this arrow shape. Now, some people think that this area is very large, but it's actually not. It's pretty small. It's the same length as your fingers. And I can show you that real quick. If I just add a cube and make it a finger length, and now duplicate it and put it here, you can see that your hand length is literally equal to your tallest finger. So don't make this part too long, or you will have to make your fingers way longer. Okay, let me delete those cubes and go back into sculpting mode. Let's use some clay strips to take away some mesh from this side because it's too corner. And some of the mesh from here. Now, I like to input one finger pretty early, so we're gonna be doing it now. So I'm going to use mask again, and shortcut for mask. Draw where the fingers should be, and just invert the mask. Maybe I'm going to shrink the mask, grow the mask a little bit. Maybe grow the mask a little bit more. Now invert it. Oh, we probably didn't need the inversion, my problem. And with the move tool, I'm going to extend. Again, look at this part and your finger almost the same. Of course, this is not the longest finger, so we shouldn't be overdoing it. Now I'm gonna go to the side view and drag just a little bit down. Clear the mask, remesh. And at this point, I'm thinking, maybe I should have a little bit more of resolution. So I'm gonna add a little bit more, 50,000, that's definitely enough. Go back to my clay strips and smooth. Maybe. Don't forget to save your file, of course. I'm gonna press I again to just inflate the finger a little bit, not too much. One thing of the finger is that it may look like it's the same thickness through the whole finger, but in reality it's not. Actually, it's a bit bigger at base and smaller at the top. As well, this is very visible on the side. As you can see, the finger, this part is smaller than this part, as well as it goes in here. All right, at this front view is not actually that visible, so I wouldn't go too obvious on that. Mine is a bit too obvious, but just so you know. Just so you know. All right, let's work a little bit on the finger and on the hand again. Now I'm gonna use crease brush, which is Shift and C for shortcut. And crease this side of the thumb and the side of another hand. Loop this, now use draw sharp and loop this crease to the front and draw this weird part from the front a bit smooth. Now actually having fingers early helps you with many things, but first I really want to fix this thumb. Thumb is pretty weird shape and pretty hard to get it right. Now, when you look at the relaxed hand, you can see that thumb is literally 90 degrees of position of your hand itself. So we have a hand position and a thumb is rotated in that place when it's relaxed. Don't forget that when it's relaxed. As you can see in this image too, every single image. Okay, so I'm going to use grab tool and just drag this one a bit so it feels like my thumb is rotating. I'm gonna do that here too. And I somewhat have a rotation correctly. Of course, you can fix your rotation with clay strips too by adding here where you need, of course, your rotation to be. Now I'm gonna form my thumb. So thumb has 3 joints as every single finger, but only 2 of them are visible. The 3rd joint is in the hand itself. In here. 1, 2, 3. So have that in mind. Now, getting the form of your thumb is hard as well. Don't forget that every single finger tapers, so the base is bigger than the front. I'm gonna add a little bit of mesh at inner part of the thumb. See, that's not working too quickly, so I'm gonna use lasso mask again. Smooth. and just use the grabbing tool to get my shapes how I want. Now you can just copy my shape of the thumb, or even look at your own thumb and see how it looks, the shape. I like a bit more stylized shape than realistic one, which make the transition of the thumb a bit more visible. One more thing. Do I have a thumb image? I think this will have to work for now. So the thumb actually starts while being smaller and becomes bigger at the end, which is a bit different from another fingers. So I'm gonna replicate that with the grabbed brush. Make the end smaller and extend the front. As well, make the separation a bit more visible. You can use draw sharp or crease brush. Okay, my position is not correct. I have way too big front and way too small bottom. So what I'm going to do is drag this somewhere in the middle. That's where it should be. Now, as you can see, shaping thumb is pretty hard. The tool is pretty weird finger. But it makes a very big part of your hand. Okay, let's leave it at them for now. We'll go back to it a bit later. What I want to do is add fingers, and we will be able to work on a hand a bit more after that. But now, before adding another fingers, we really need to make our one finger as best as it can be. So I think I will add a little bit more of resolution. 100,000, I think that's a nice amount. I'm going to smooth my finger. Now we only care about the finger at this point. A lot of fingers shape comes from the hand gesture itself. So what I want to have is have a nice form gesture of this finger. What I'm going to do, go into the side view. And don't forget, when you're masking the end, have this edge and not straight cube form. Press the mask brush, and by holding Control, I'm just going to take this mask side away. And just move mask a few times and invert it. What I'm going to do is a little bit of the pose, and the posing brush is awesome at this job. Now, how I calculate my posing brush is literally, as you can see, it has two radius, one inner and one outer. Now, when I have my brush at the tip of the finger, I press F and get this outer radius touching my mask somewhere in the middle. That's from where my finger will be rotating. So I'm just going to rotate a little bit down, not too much. Now I want to get that radius at where my finger will have a joint and rotate it as well. Same for the smaller, and rotate it a little bit too. It looks pretty weird now, but we're gonna fix the finger shapes. All right. Now, what I like to do is drag joints a bit higher. As well, something you should know about finger joint shown in here. So as you can see, it even has a drawing over. Fingers are not straight lines for your joints. From your thumb place, one is straight and another ones are on angle. So when I'm looking, that's why we had this angle in here. We'll have this angle on this finger too, and this one is pretty straight. Now my thumb is not so close because this hand is in a bit of the different position. My hand is more in this position where your thumb is not exactly at there. I'm gonna clear the mask. Let's work on this finger back again when we know a few things. So what I'm going to do is add this knuckle here. From a knuckle, I will drag few lines to the front. This is where the tendency will be. I'm going to draw a bit on this middle part too. And what I like to do, especially with stylized fingers, always use a flattening tool. Now, if you're just going to use scrape tool, you're gonna scrape a lot of finger away. What I do in this position, I'm holding Ctrl while scraping, so it's going to add a little bit of the mesh and not take it away, but make the mesh flat as well. Add flat mesh on top. Now I'm going to smooth. Go into the side view again. And with the grab tool, I want to have that shape where it starts higher and becomes smaller. Same from the bottom. Of course, the fingers have those puffy plates where it's a bit of puffiness, not a straight line. Looks pretty straight in these lines, but as you can see in here, they have not straight lines, but a bit of roundness to it. That's what I'm trying to achieve in these shapes. Now don't forget that if you're working only on a side view, another side of your finger will not be changed and it may look weird, so you'll have to fix both of the sides. Now with the grabbing tool, I like to form where the nail is, and I'll just drag it down, having that taper shape there. Let me clear these. Alright, as you can see I have this imperfection again, so I move to another side of the finger and with the grab tool I try to make it equal. Now at the bottom of the finger I will drag it a bit in. Because another big thing people miss about fingers, they think that the fingers have this V connection when they don't. They have this separation. Even visible in here. A nice gap separation. These fingers doesn't have a very visible separation because the skin is very connected in a weird way. But these two have. Now that weird thing of the skin is overlapping of the skin. If you look at your own fingers, you will see that the middle finger skin is overlapping at this finger. But now we don't mind about those things. Now we only mind about having this shape in and not out. Another thing is the hand is not straight line. What we need is to have a little bit of this. So I'm going to do that. As you can see, bam, it extends to your thumb. Looks pretty nice, right? Now, before working on your hand, I will try to, working further, I've tried to get this finger as best as you can, because we're literally going to make copies of this finger. What I'm going to do is crease this place too with a crease brush. Shift C for crease brush, don't forget that. And when I think that my finger has a nice shape, don't forget, finger is not only about the shape itself, but the gesture of the of your hand. So as you can see, these fingers are not in straight line, even if they look very being straight. They look straight, but they have some of the bend in them, right? This way, your hand creates a gesture with those nice flowing lines. And if you will have those stickman gesture of your hand, it will not look good. So that's why we had this bendiness and not these strange fingers. Now my gesture is not perfect, and the separation from the fingers is not perfect too. I would add this a bit more sharpness to them, make the separation more visible. The more visible you make it, of course, you shouldn't go overboard. But if your separation is too smooth, your finger is going to look like sausages, and it's not a great look to have. Now, at this place, you can even add nails if you want. Now, I don't really want to add nails on this hand because adding nails will require having a lot of vertices. So let's just move ahead and do a little trick to make another fingers. So what I'm going to do is just select any brush, hold Ctrl Shift again for the lasso mask, and mask it. Now, don't forget to mask it from where your separation is, and it has to have that taper shape and not stable, just going up. And of course, we'll need to use again mask brush. So we got our mask brush, holding Ctrl, I clear it. Let me add a smooth mask a few times, it's enough. Don't forget to save your file, and in a mask, there's mask extract. So I'm gonna use this. Now, before pressing, just so you know, if you have a lot of vertices and a weak computer, it might actually crash, so don't forget to save your file. Okay, so I'm gonna press OK. And by pressing G, I'm gonna move it a bit off the side, and we have another finger. Now, we cannot really use this finger yet. What we have to do is go into modifiers and turn off this. And as well as the finger will have hole, and remeshing it won't work. So what we have to do is go into edit mode of only the finger. Don't go into edit mode in the hand, or you might explode your computer again. Now there's two ways to select this hole. Is by holding Alt and selecting this last edge. You'll have everything selected, or you can go into select and select by trait and on manifold. And press F to close this hole. Go back into the object mode, and now we can start positioning our fingers. So this is going to be a biggest finger, and it's not actually touching the base of my hand. So what I'm going to do is scale it on E axis and position it now. Now it's a little bit bigger, but before we actually do it, let's go back. Before we extended it, maybe move it here a bit, rotate, not too much. Actually think my finger is a little bit too wide, so what we can even do is scale on X axis and make it a little bit smaller. Now I'm going to duplicate it and add a middle finger. Of course, scale Y, scale U axis and position it. Position this one too. Duplicate another one, scale it a bit down, and position it here as well. Now, as you can see, all of my fingers are going down. Now these fingers are usually even same length, so you don't have to go too overboard. Now our hand looks very weird, but it's just for now. I'm going to select only the hand, going into sculpting mode. What I'm going to do is make it wider to reach my fingers. Make it wider in here as well. Now actually I will make it a bit smaller later on. Nice, I forgot one thing. The arc in the front. Now my fingers are in the straight line. So what I'm going to do is move smallest pinky down. This one a little bit only down. And the middle finger a bit up. Now, again, there's small thing, another thing, which I don't really know if I should tell you, but the fingers, let me hide this one. If you can see, this is our hand plane, and the finger usually looks 90 degrees to that plane, but you shouldn't go overboard with this, or you will have a very weird looking fingers in the end. So you want to use it, you don't want to use it, that's fine by you. What I'm going to do is select my finger and just rotate it a little bit to the side. I'm going to same with this, only a little bit, so the rotation is more looking to the palm. And now I have this nice shaped hand. Okay, what I'm gonna do is select all fingers together, Ctrl J. Don't forget to save file again, because these are pretty heavy operations. And now Shift select my hand, Ctrl join everything. Let's go back into the sculpting mode. Clear the mask. And we can use voxel remesh. Again, you can save. We have only 160,000. You don't really even need to use smooth brush. We can use just clay strips with our auto smooth on. And I'm gonna just clear a bit of those unsmoothiness and form the knuckles. So we did something very similar to this already to the front finger, but for the fixing the shape, I still need to smooth some of the places. We still will need to fix some of the finger shape. I will add a knuckle. From the knuckle, I would add this straight tension to the finger. Add a knuckle. Smooth. Now we have these weird spikes. We need to remesh again to get rid of them. All right. So we just do the same thing to all of the fingers. I'm actually taking away a bit of the mesh from here. Some of the knuckles are not that visible, like your pinkies, so don't go too overboard with it. Now I'm gonna just move the finger a bit into this hand, so it has like this not totally straight line, but a bit out. All right, now let's look at the bottom. Actually, the bottom, as you can see, it has a weird sharp line. So what I do, I just add that line. As well, as you can see, this, when I add, my hand is too big. So I'm gonna do is mask this finger. And with a grabbing tool, I'm gonna move it a bit in. Clear the mask, smooth. Clay strips again. Make my plane not have this rough separation with the hand. So I add more mass on my palm to make it more straight. more flow. All right, you can add a little bit in the center because I think by shaping the hand I took off way too much out of it, and there's not really that drastic changes. Okay, I'm going to... I see this is too big of the separation in here, so I'm adding more in here, smooth. Adding more in here, smooth. Same for these. At this point, I think my fingers are longer than my hand. So I'm gonna do is drag this a bit down. All right. Weird spikes. Control R, remesh. Now my palm looks pretty flat. With the grab tool, let's add this form. Which I was talking about in the beginning. Now a lot of hand stop form comes from having these tensions going till the wrist. Now the thickness doesn't matter too much. Just don't go overboard with it. I'll still smooth it. And I go with the crease brush over it to crease it a bit. Smooth. And again, this shape. And our hand is in pretty good position. So as you can see, maybe the pinky is too far from how other fingers are looking. It's never hard to fix these issues. Just use lasso mask. Invert the mask, smooth. We can grow, shrink the mask if you need a little bit of adjustments, and I would usually use the pose tool. It's the best, but sometimes you can see that white line connects to a weird place. You can try making your brush smaller to get the line into more correct place, or just use rotation, sculpt, pivot to unmasked and rotate it. But you will have to use a transpose after to get it into the shape you want. I think that's a bit too much of the rotation. Now I don't need that much. And as well, I think so as you can see, this is more like at the feeling and the gesture of your hand at this point. So what I feel is this finger is too straight. Oh, I have a move tool on and not the pose tool. Just going to rotate a little bit. Oh, clear the mask. Okay, so now, as you can see, only my thumb is the biggest problem here. And I don't have visible bones. So everyone knows that there's a connection with your arm bone with the hand. Where are my annotations? You can see there's a bone here, which is bone. Basically, these two sides have bones. The pinky side has the bone at the top. The thumb side has it at the middle, at the bottom. So again, pinky side, our bone is at the top. We can have this tendency extension. And this one is at the middle, at the bottom. And it can even have connection to your thumb. Can I add a bit more mass in this separation? Now, as I told, shaping thumb can be very hard. But just take your time. Now, actually, for hand lines, I like this image most. So, as you can see, this and this is a separation again from this. But what I will do, I will just show you. I will use draw sharp. Actually, the thumb line is pretty high. I made it a bit low, but of course this separation, this, your top, your finger, and just one of the skin. Basically, that's all the lines you should pay attention to. I'll just add a bit more mesh on here because my thumb was not having enough. Nope. And I think this is pretty good of the hand already. Now what we can do is crease these parts. Don't crease them too low, so you think that here where I should crease, right? But if I crease here, I lose that skin, which I was trying to put in front. It's just very hard to explain. But even with the grab tool, I will push this a bit higher because, again, I want to have that taper shape on the side where this, and by pulling this in the front, I will have this in the back. I probably should draw on the surface. Let me hide everything. And this way, we will have a very visible line. So, let me draw my knuckles. And now I go into the view and you can see where my connections are. Right? And let's see, this is our thumb, and again, it comes from the thumb, and we get those lines. Which is correct way of shaping your fingers and your hand. So okay again. Okay. Just let me add the new ones, because why not? Again, this separation, this thumb, and just the skin. And that's basically it. The hand can be hard, but just stay strong and keep pursuing it. So if you need nails, I would usually just add a plane, add like 3 lines, lift them, and I would subdivide and smooth. Extrude. And I will just add this as separate object. This way you will have less vertices and it's going to be easier for you to get it in place and getting it look good. Of course, you will probably have to do a bit work around where you have to add a bit more mass at the side of the nails. Have this cut. And again, as I would even go that far to remesh the nail. Don't want that too much, but the nail has this bending shape too. And yeah, you would just have to go in and out and do that, then shaping your nails on the model itself, because 100,000 is definitely not enough for your nails. Okay everyone, so thank you for watching this hand sculpting tutorial, and I hope you see you in the next one. Bye!